So, welcome back to the WGL EU. We are into Season 4 Match Day 3, and we've already got one game down and out. And, well, C-Play didn't really turn up today. EPS won that one quite clearly with a bit of a, well, one-sided victory, 3-0. And C-Play lacking what really impressed me about them before, that direction, their kind of focus fire, their real strategy that just shook the big teams even. Virtus.pro looked a little bit taken aback at points. But it wasn't to be. EPS played well, and they played, well, I think better tanks overall. I don't think you disagree?
Certainly don't. I mean, maybe C-Play is one of those teams like Schwaller was, who struggled against the lower teams, but did
top
really
teams.
well against the top teams. They are those teams that exist. You do put that extra 10% in when you do play the top ones.
Most definitely, and I'm curious to see if Lucky Kuraki can do that. As you saw at the bottom there, the next game up will be Lucky Kuraki up against TCM. Now, Lucky Kuraki already caused some upsets previously to today, showing the big guys that they can definitely compete at the very top, and TCM currently are up there, kind of in tow with Virtus.pro at the top of the scoreboards recently, but you know, still early days. We're yet to see them really kind of find their footing within this. So let's actually look at those two lineups and have a little look as towards who will be watching in just a second's time. Now, who do we need to look at from Lucky Kuraki? Because they are fairly new in a way to at least the WGL EU.
Yeah, they were only around for a season or two last year, so they haven't been around at least for Season 3, joining us again for Season 4. I think they're in Season 1. But they are a fairly new team. They've had a lot of changes since those times as well. Still led up by Kuraki there. Kelly still a main player joining in as well. McMoney, Matt PL for me has been a very standout player for them. Extremely talented. Definitely helped them along to win against School Bus in that real upset we saw in the last match day. For TCM Gaming, I think generally though they have the more consistent lineup, but they don't have that synergy.
Yeah, I don't feel they even have that star player sometimes, and seeing the way Kurak's played and seeing the way that Matt PL has played, Lucky Kuraki definitely displays some of that. And actually, let's take a look at what TCM's strong points are, or at least what we think they are so far. So a good all-rounding team. It's more about that fight coordination and decision-making that I feel, and I think you do, really takes them through on these.
Yeah, their fight coordination is pretty damn good. Decision making has also seemed to be very up there with some of the best sort of Virtus.pro and School Bus, all those top teams. Denali Esports, they do seem to be a better team than we've ever seen them before. Previously, as Oda Mortis including, I would say with creativity, they don't want to push out the boat too much, but they're certainly doing it a lot more than they have in the past. I think maybe their only weakness is sometimes a little bit passive accuracy, a little bit lower, but generally they're pretty high stats. So TCM and overall a very good team.
Oh, definitely, especially in this season, doing what normally they do best, as they do start at the top and then see how it comes throughout the rest of the season. And it looks like they might be sticking up at the very top of this for a little bit longer. But let's have a look at their opponents. Lucky Kuraki, one of the newer teams to the season, but showing some real potential very early on here. What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses?
So their first matchup was against Virtus.pro. They lost. Their weakness there was just being a little bit indecisive and maybe being a little bit unlucky in some respects. Strengths seem to be insanely good heavy tank players, just really good heavy tank players, and very good decision making. I think out of everything, for me, Lucky Kuraki has been the best team so far with their decision making. Everything has been on point. They countered School Bus perfectly. They've got real creativity. They have a lot of braininess in that team, and it does come through. It does show in their results, and maybe just a fluke result against School Bus, but it certainly looked like they were being aggressive and being assertive throughout all the games.
Well, considering what the downfall of C-Play was in only the last game, that lack of dedication and commitment to the plays they were going for, Lucky Kuraki seemed to have stuck with them, especially against School Bus, and made it hurt. And that was a great game to watch back. Obviously, you guys can catch that over on the WGLEU.com and check out the VODs, obviously, all available there. But I've got to say, TCM are a solid team. I find them maybe a little more consistent than School Bus on occasion. Obviously, once Stalker had, let's say, stepped down for his sake, and it's now up to the other players to find their own way in a sense. It's going to be a bit of a way to kind of judge a couple of other teams off the back of this, because School Bus, they are great individuals. There's no doubting that. Applewell, even on his own, is a monster, and as are all the others. But are they great as a team still? I'm not sure. If Lucky Kuraki can outdo them, are they now, are Lucky Kuraki better than them overall? And does that mean that TCM are even better than them? It's going to be a good way to display the entire season that we might have coming up, because if Lucky Kuraki, let's say, can repeat something similar to what we saw them pull off against School Bus, they are certainly going to be a top 3 contender, I feel, or at least top 5. They are certainly a team that could really cause upsets here if they can pull off a good result against TCM, who are currently, I believe, 2nd in the rankings overall. But I think we are just now moments away from getting underway into the second match here, obviously. And it will be beginning on Ensk, I believe. A little bit of a hybrid at the moment. It used to be one of the city maps just completely and utterly. But it seems teams are more going for that green zone now and then. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 teams now favouring the city completely. But why has that happened? What's been the swinging factor here, do you think?
Well, you do want to change the strategy, and the meta changes a lot. So that obviously does come into the equation. And from the south, really, it's hard. It's not hard to push forwards. You can go and get 60% of the map, but what you do once you have that 60%, you can't actually go any further forwards. So you basically have to rely on perhaps catching out or the other team, which is maybe being a bit too aggressive, a little bit too assertive, but generally it doesn't work. So it does kind of force you to go towards that right side, the green zone a little bit more, and kind of duke it over maybe up and down the railroads. So it's a matter of how the game changes and everything kind of works out. From the north, it's just you do have both choices.
Both are applicable to you, basically.
Exactly. You can go over the green zone, be effective, and you can go over towards the city side. I think it's quite clear that from the north, Ensk is a little bit easier to play. You have more options. Maybe you don't win 50-50 is pretty balanced map, but from the north, you definitely have more options, which will help. But this was one of the maps that Lucky Kuraki beat School Bus on. They outthought School Bus without Stalker, without Povel, at least Stalker, the thinker, and without Povel, that heavy tank player. It's going to be maybe a harder job to outthink TCM than it is to outthink School Bus.
It's going to be very interesting to find out. The tank choices have come in. Are there any surprises there, or is this what we expected to see?
It's normal triple IS3, double 5100 for both teams. Standard stuff on Ensk. Obviously, Himmelsdorf, we see the triple 5100 instead of the triple IS3, but the switcheroo between these two lineups is pretty common and nothing we wouldn't expect.
Yeah, so guys, make sure you get your predictions, obviously, over on Twitter and Facebook, because we are now seconds away from beginning on that first map. Can Lucky Kuraki do it again? Will Lightning strike twice? I can't wait to see this, because TCM have looked consistent, but they've not looked phenomenal, whereas Lucky Kuraki have shown glimmers of real potential. So I'm definitely looking at Lucky Kuraki to try and step up here. I'm not sure about you. Who's your money on this one?
I'm going to have to go for TCM. I just have to.
Well, he's back in the old dogs. I'll go for the new guys. Let's get rid of that for that first map, Ensk. So welcome into the first map. As we said, it will be Ensk, and in the north in blue, fitting for the team, it will be Team Cooler Master TCM, and in the south in red, it will be Lucky Kuraki. And I'm going to stick with them and see what they can do here. What are we seeing from the very start, though?
So it's described from the south, you do want to be heading over towards the green side, and that looks like what Lucky Kuraki wants to do. The aim for TCM at the beginning will be trying to get the cross off, trying to get the cross shots to try and do some damage to Lucky Kuraki as they do a crow and set up positions. That'll be down to Thorist and Yukai in those two IS3s. Maybe a first couple of spots coming out. No damage done so far, but Lucky Kuraki are forced to not head over to that green side. This could be a good move from TCM.
Yeah, definitely forcing their opponents. Hopefully they are ready to deal with the hand they have now forced of their opposition. Obviously, Lucky Kuraki, Bishu and Kelly with CNK already got themselves within the city area. So maybe not completely against this, but as you said, it's not the ideal position you want to be in from that start. So I'm curious to see where they take it from here. No damage yet caused at all. Good little clean sweep coming out from TCM, really spreading themselves throughout this map, and I'm looking forward to see where they can take it now. CNK might be moving into a bit of enemy territory soon, but he could get some good information. So far, he's only found Magus.
Magus CNNK going head to head. Good to see my Magus playing the game again. Well, he has been away for the first few match days of the Super Week. Good to see he's back in the side, and he's a brainiac when it comes to World of Tanks. He definitely got a lot of experience, so he'll certainly be an asset for TCM. Certainly has been in the future, in the past as well. So good to see that. 8 minutes and 23 seconds left on the clock. Lucky Kuraki caught out a little bit, maybe not happy with the fact that they can't get the green zone, although Kuraki has managed to get himself a good spot in the bushes. And TCM, they just need to find a way of rotation. The obvious thing right now for TCM would be if they popped around this corner, these three IS3s would be dead within half a second. Then you should have the IS3s push up here from TCM, get the cross shots on, and that's why you see Lucky Kuraki having to rotate. That's why they have to get over to that green side, because they are completely open from one flank, and that is really World of Tanks 101. That is Tanks 101.
Well, at the moment, Yukai, Thoros, and Still Mojo all going down that 6 line. So Matt PL and McMoney are all staring him down. And the first couple of shells coming in. Lucky Kuraki are taking a bit of a beating here. And, oh, 2 shots back-to-back. McMoney, he's not sitting pretty anymore. A couple of shells come back through. Durs was the first to receive a bit of damage. But at the moment, these shots coming out of TCM are really damn potent. And let's bear in mind, there are players left, right, and center waiting for Lucky Kuraki to make another move. And as you can see, those shells just about whizzing past McMoney and Matt now as they've sunk into better positions. Still Mojo finally gets one back, but this exchange, it's all been TCM.
And they're waiting for that rotate from Eurofish in that 5100. He needs to find his way around onto the side, but Lucky Kuraki is certainly out of position, but it is 4 against 3, and you can see the rotate coming around from the side from Bitshu and Kelly in the 25100s. CNNK going first, but it looks like TCM are completely unaware and they're going to get completely caught out. But they still have to get the engagement perfect, because it will be a 4 against 2.
It definitely will be. So Bishu and Kelly, big factors into this. The first one to be on the receiving end, I can imagine, will be Durs, but actually Yukai and Thoros all turning their turrets. That tier 1 has appeared. I think they're aware of what's happening here. This could be absolutely disastrous for Lucky Kuraki. The tier 1's fallen. Will they still commit, or is this a little bit too much? Now they finally have the opponents split up. A 3-2 split from Lucky Kuraki against a real solid lineup, and Eurofish even coming over to join in now with the rest of the TCM side. And look at the HP pools still on that TCM. It's unbelievable, barely receiving any damage. A couple of shells come through, but no connections, and I think Kelly and Bisha are about to be singled out.
Well, they're going to be singled out like an absolute treat. They weren't aggressive enough, and they haven't retreated. They've been sitting in that no man's land, and they're going to be not alive in a sec.
Well, 3v2 situation. Thoros and Yukai coming in. Kelly and Bishu take a pounding. Durs wants to get in on the action. Fire comes in. Kelly going low. Bishu picks up the mantle, tries to soak it up, but still Mojo, even from the side, can do the damage. And Bishu goes forward. Shells are bouncing. It's not what he wants. He's about second away from going down. And this is beautiful play from TCM. Lucky Kuraki had a brilliant plan in mind, but the execution was poor and the plan was foiled, and now just 3 tanks stand.
That was some real Sherlock Holmes stuff from TCM. They just saw all the clues and they reacted perfectly, and really coming out with a significant advantage now, although 3 IS3 stand for TCM. Still Mojo keeping those 3 at bay on his own. And McMoney to take a big shell, a couple more heading the side of Lucky Kuraki. But at the end of the day, those 250-100s were the key. And TCM just unlocked them in a matter of seconds. Not reversing, not being aggressive enough leads you into dangerous situations. And they are learning that first one hand. So far, TCM are outthinking and outplaying Lucky Kuraki. But 3 IS3 still alive.
Let's see if they can do anything with them. Still Mojo, after holding them back, looking to add insult to injury, comes around, slams down McMoney, and that is him down and out. Matt and Shock, the last 2 alive. They're already taking fire from the flanks. Eurofish and Durs moving in as well. Still Mojo wants in on the action. Matt might be on the first receiving end, but actually Still Mojo going for Shock. Eurofish comes in for Matt. Shell's not quite landing just yet, but Eurofish finally gets one down, so Matt looking in trouble. I don't think he's going to survive much longer. Eurofish deals the damaging blow. Shock falls, and TCM pick up the first map here. Brilliantly played out, clinical precision, and I just don't know how they expected that 5100 split, but they read it like a book.
It was unbelievable. That one tier 1 CNNK getting spotted out, TCM automatically just rotating around, and also I think it was in the back of their mind. that was
where are these guys, I guess.
Exactly, and they, back of their mind, and they were almost on their backs at the same time. For TCM, I think the one misplay they did, they were a little bit too preoccupied by those 3 I3s, and if Bishu and Kelly had been more aggressive, then they would have been in some serious trouble. But at the end of the day, those 250-100 weren't aggressive enough. They were waiting for something, I'm not sure what. They didn't expect TCM to read it so well, and obviously they weren't in a position to retreat, which they should have done. Either be aggressive or be in a safe position. Don't be in that position where you can easily get flanked, and which is exactly where they were. TCM just reading it perfectly, as we said. Do walk away with that first win. All in all, a very impressive matchup, very impressive tactic. But TCM have been known to be one of the better teams on Ensk. They've been extremely good on that map. It's really the other maps that they struggle a lot with.
Well, and speaking of other maps, the second one will be Steps. So I'm not sure how they can do on this one. Maybe not to their complete forte, but I'm sure they can adapt here. The thing that impressed me with TCM on that one, they had an initial plan. It was going okay for them. They stopped, I believe it was obviously Lucky Kuraki from getting to the area they wanted to. So that was the nice initial plan played out. And then the one thing that really impressed me was their reactive play. The way they won that wasn't just following through with their own strategy, but undoing their opponents. And I love seeing that in effect there. So we can start talking about Steps once those tank picks start rolling in. What can we expect from this? Would this be a TCM stronghold, or is this maybe a map that Lucky Kuraki could do some work on?
They won against School Bus on this map by capping, which it's been hard. Steps is a map where it was all about the engagements. We've seen 2 times now this season where it's been about the cap race with 4 tanks in the cap, and so far Lucky Kuraki have been the better team in that respect. TCM will have to rely on their more clinical style of play with the AMX 3090s. They have to flank around, make sure that Lucky Kuraki isn't outthinking them. Make sure they get the information, have the tier 1s in the right place, make sure that the crosses off and everything like that. Also, that play on the top, the flank around on the trench is going to be so key for Lucky Kuraki to stop. It's all going to be about positioning this map, all going to be about information and positioning. Those are the 2 key things pretty much on every map, but especially on a big old open map like Steps. 3 AMX 3090s though, 2 T69s, 2 T1s final lineup for the Polish side. Lucky Kuraki just waiting on Magos to join in, but he's obviously going to be picking a tier 1 as the rest of his team have gone for 2 T69s, 3 MX 3090s, double tier 1 mirrored lineup.
And I think this is a perfect way, really, to watch this now. 2 teams with the near all exact same lineups, as you mentioned there, just obviously different players in those tanks. But predictions on this one, who's going to pick it up?
I think Lucky Kuraki, I think they got a good chance of taking this one.
Let's hope so. I want this to go beyond just the 3 maps, because these are 2 really quite brilliant teams going head to head. So I don't know. I'm still sticking with Lucky Kuraki, but we'll find out, because I think the teams are ready. So guys, let's get ready for that video of Steps. So, welcome back. We are into that second map, Steps, as you just saw, with the beautiful fly-through coming in there. And in the north in red, it's going to be Lucky Kuraki, currently trailing to TCM, who are in the south in blue, with 0-1. Ensk looked pretty prolific coming out from the TCM side. But what are we seeing from the very start, this time from Lucky Kuraki?
Standard start from the north. Lucky Kuraki heading over towards that trench side. McMoney obviously taking the high road, wanting to get the spots out. He had the best spawning position for that job, and he's going to meet Thorus in his MX 3090. They're going to spot each other out, maybe. Yes, indeed they do. Standard start from TCM Gaming as well. Well, maybe the T69 in its position is slightly unusual, but generally heading over towards the left side with the majority of their tanks. T1 sitting up in K6 to try and stop any capping pressure, which we've been talking about. It's a forte for Lucky Kuraki for sure. And the T69 and MX 3090 GG Red D and Thorus getting the flank on, making sure that, well, Lucky Kuraki aren't going for something cheeky at the beginning. So standard stuff from both teams. Also looks like both teams not wanting to have that engagement on the trench, as Lucky Kuraki is going to be rotating.
I'm interested to see how this one comes down, because actually, surprisingly to my eyes, a lot of the teams starting in the south haven't really won this engagement. They've been running away from it a lot of the times recently, at least. But these two teams, they're a different kettle of fish, so looking forward to see if this one pays off. Thoros going ahead a little. He might get caught out by Matt and McMoney with Kelly there, but at the moment, still doing okay. And Lucky Kuraki looking fairly willing to get in their faces, but Thoros is the only one really to making much of a move for TCM, but he is still being fairly careful, but it looks like Lucky Kuraki are continuing to push.
So this is Lucky Kuraki's outthinking. This is their brains I've been talking about, so they know that most teams are doing what TCM is doing, so they're sending tanks over towards that left side, expecting to not get spotted, which they haven't done, so that's one tick on the box. So then, you know, most teams head through here, and then get some good positions along here. And this is why you can see 5 tanks, all the damage dealing tanks for Lucky Kuraki are just ready and waiting to try and do some damage. But TCM does get good spots out. Magus being in a perfect position there in a T1. 50-meter proxy spot finds out Matt PL, and TCM have got the information they needed. They're not being careless like we've seen in the past from this team. And so far, a shot goes out, hits Matt PL. They have the information and the damage advantage.
Well, so far it looks like Yukai and Co are actually going around to get some sort of engagement here. CNK on the right flank, he's going to be dispatched off swiftly. So that's the tier 1 loss for Lucky Kuraki, and a good play from them, but actually not fully rotating off this either. Shock, Kelly, and one other, I believe. Bishu still over there. And I've got to say, Magus is not leaving for the life of him. He's sticking around for this one just in case. And I actually quite like the play cut out from Lucky Kuraki, maybe trying to bait a couple of tanks to show their hand a little more and try and do the damage off the back of it, but also splitting themselves up here. Eurelfish, Yukai, and Thoros mostly focusing on where Matt PL and McMoney have gone towards, but there's still a big bit of the team against them just over that ridge.
So what TCM needs to do is use that tier 1 advantage they have and just sacrifice it, get it into a good position, get some information. Magus, you can see, is going to be taking that job up. Does get taken down as well, but Kelly gets spotted, and this is going to be the higher ground for TCM.
Well, this was the problem with Lucky Kuraki's strat there that could have gone wrong, but maybe they can make this one count. Yukai does have to be a little bit careful here. He has received a touch of damage, but still, he has support, he has backup. Does DJ Red Deep and Eurelfish are all still here. One man on the split round the side. Obviously, still Mojo doing the smart thing as well, making sure they didn't go completely back down to the trenches. And I like this play from TCM, completely and utterly overcoming Lucky Kuraki, as Kelly does receive another shell there. So, not the ideal start from Lucky Kuraki this time.
Now you can see how much damage they've taken. It's starting to add up. Matt PL down to about 60%, 618 left on that, 871 on Kelly, and finally Bishu on 1126 out of the combat tanks. And Lucky Kuraki actually struggling. I would use the word squirming in this position. TCM are really starting to get the pressure on. They're really starting to pile the pressure on. You could see the AMX 3090s, that speed being utilized perfectly. That's Thoros and Durs in the background. They're going to be going onto the 2 AMX 3090s on the 1, 2, 3, 4 line of Lucky Kuraki. That's Mac Money and Matt PL, and they do have that HP advantage. They just need to get the execution perfect, and they need to get the cross split on. So they can't just engage from one side, they have to engage from both.
Let's see if that pays off. Durs looks as though he's getting into a bit of a position here, so get himself ready, but still, they don't obviously make a mistake here. It's still tentative. One player loss for each side. A little bit of a HP deficit, let's say, with Lucky Kuraki. But TCM, careful as ever. Bishu, though, does let a shell go. No real connections. Still, only Yukai being on to receive any damage here towards the later game, obviously, after Magus did fall first of all. But the work he put in initially was phenomenal. Getting all those spots, getting the information, and allowing his team to get to the position they're in, pretty much. So Durs and Thoros once again bring themselves back around down towards that A-B line as well, and they look like they want to actually get a bit of an engagement here. Thoros, he's not afraid of this. He loves his position. Every time I see him on this map, he might be able to catch out Matt or any of the others here. Actually, McMoney is there as well, and you are seeing a patient TCM, but there we go. Another tier 1 will fall to the hands of Thoros. A little bit more fire comes out as well. Still Mojo possibly moving in towards the cap circle just to test them out, see if anyone's in a position maybe to make these shots actually hurt. Thoris still on those railroad lines, laying down the fire towards Matt. Matt is going really low here. Durs has joined him as well. Matt could be in trouble this time. We are seeing a bit of a counter move coming up from the other players towards Eurofish and DJ Redeep.
Yeah, but Matt does go down there in the AMX 1390, so first frag in the side of TCM Gaming, forcing Lucky Kuraki to go forwards.
Yeah, and let's see if they can make this one count. 1 minute and 13 on the cap. Yukai, Eurofish, DJ Redeep now having to be a little bit careful. There's a big squad heading over towards them. 4 players now moving in. This could be the brawl they're waiting on. Can they get this done before the others rejoin in the battle? Eurofish is at the front. He's going to get pretty damn low. He's taken down. McMoney and Shock backing away, leaving Bishu and McMoney joined by Kelly to refocus up here. They could turn this one if they get the fire right, but Thoris comes around. Shock's now in trouble. Bishu as well. Bishu's low. He could go down. One more shell surely would do the job, and there it is. 3 men now stand for Lucky Kuraki. McMoney, Kelly, and Shock doing what they can, but look at McMoney's health. He's down to nothing. Kelly trying to avoid the fire, but it's coming in strong. 299 damage coming in, and now Kelly and McMoney, the last 2 standing. Shock was taken down, McMoney making a run for it, but I don't think there's anywhere to run and hide when Durs is landing those shots as Kelly tries to reset the cap. But still, Mojo just stands tall and says, we've done our job, you can take me down, because the game, it's going to be ours. TCM, 2 maps up to the good with an astounding victory there on steps. And I love the play from Magus. You may look at all the damage dealing tanks then and go, they were the big players. The information he got initially was absolutely vital then.
Lucky Kuraki, you have to remember, would have been in a very, very good position.
Oh, phenomenal.
If Magas hadn't been in where he was. He got all the spots out, and Lucky Kuraki, they did very well to get into that position and really think about what TCM wanted to do. So, you know, nothing disrespectful against Lucky Kuraki, but the thing is, TCM were 1 step ahead of you. They had the information, and once TCM had you kind of boxed into that position, it would have been very hard for Lucky Kuraki to get out of that.
Yes.
I think the one option they did have was to basically just commit all 5 tanks onto one area of TCM.
And hope you had the number advantage.
Exactly. So, you know, I think Kuraki in that tier 1 should have gone a lot more aggressive, gone forward, so you would have spotted the 2 AMX 1390s which were on the flank.
Right.
So you know that. Then you send your 5 combat tanks onto the Yukai and Durs, and you'll be able to take those out, because they ended up sending 3, and they did a pretty good job again getting those 2 out. I think you can see Yukai went down. Durs was also very low HP, I believe. So
yeah, they were.
It would have been a good place to attack, but Lucky Kuraki may be missing out a little bit. TCM, they had the ideas and they executed them, not perfectly, but pretty damn good. Yeah,
I think the late game was a little bit sloppy from both of them towards the end of it there. I think obviously TCM played out better because they won. But Lucky Kuraki did do very well. Like, I like the idea of their positioning, rotating the players back, almost trying to bait in TCM. But when you got a man like Magus there, you know, experienced, head on those shoulders, he checked the spots that some teams may be a little bit lackluster to check, you know, and he found it out completely. But, you know, a lesser team would have fallen into the trap there of Lucky Kuraki. I genuinely believe that. And read it as you will, but maybe School Bus are the lesser team then, if you want to look at it that way, because Lucky Kuraki are smart players. You can see it in their play. It's actually not a bad idea what they went for, but you just can't predict players like Magus will be there checking absolutely everything, because he didn't only do it once. He found out the initial kind of strategy after being down those trenches. He did it twice when they even left. I think it was 3 tanks they left there, and he found it out both times. And that's something you can't always count on when you're doing those kind of on-the-fly adaptions. But, you know, credit to him. People ask, you know, what's the importance of these tier 1s, and you just found out one of them there. That was brilliantly played out. A bit of a superstar kind of welcoming back to Magus here. He's kind of been gone for a couple of weeks, and now he's come back, and he's pretty much single-handedly won them that game, I feel, almost. It could have gone very differently. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, that one play which makes all the difference. It really is. It's such a small thing, makes such a big difference. It's a butterfly can create a storm. And you know, drawing comparisons between School Bus and TCM, for instance, on Prokhorovka against Lucky Kuraki, they ended up winning it, but they were very aggressive on the left side with the AMX 1390s. Lucky Kuraki had set up that trap, and they managed to just focus down 2 AMX 1390s.
Whereas maybe TCM would have sent a tier 1 over towards the left side, sent it first, made sure there's nothing there, make sure they have all those box ticked before they are being too, I don't know,
committed almost. Yeah,
exactly.
It's this weird kind of balance you've got to get perfectly, and I think the tank picks are coming in. I don't really see any surprises here. I think that's fairly standard from both sides. Yeah,
triple AMX 1390, double T69, double T1 for TCM Gaming, and triple T69, double AMX 1390. The only difference then being Lucky Kuraki have an extra T69 and TCM have an extra AMX 1390. Looks like both teams are not going to be pushing the boat out, or the tank out, I should say, in terms of just their picks. They're going for a lot more standard stuff, and I prefer that, to be honest. I like it when they do that, because you can kind of see, for instance, on Ruinberg, maybe C-Play lost that one because of the IS3s. You have more of an even matchup, which is always very good. But for me, I do like Lucky Kuraki's lineup a little bit more.
I'm just hoping they get a chance to really put it into effect, because I feel that at the moment, Lucky Kuraki have once again showed some brilliant potential. But let's see if they can make a count here on Prokhorovka, our third map, if I can say the words right. So, welcome back. Currently, TCM sitting at 2 maps to the good. Lucky Kuraki yet to really make a dent on that scoreboard. We are into map number 3, so this could be all over very, very quickly. But let's find out if they're going to go for it this time. In the north, in red, it's going to be Lucky Kuraki with it all to do. And TCM in the south, in blue, with such a big advantage. What are we seeing so far?
Lucky Kuraki doing the standard thing, making sure they have the left side covered with the tier 1s Kuraxi and NK. The rest of their tanks surging up in towards the middle, trying to get some footing if they can, maybe get some good position, some good shots against TCM, who are also doing a pretty normal thing. Although I would have expected them a T32 if they wanted to do that tactic. Left side for them, and also a middle spot. But you can see how aggressive Lucky Kuraki are going, surging forwards. 2 MX 1390s behind the rock. This could be disastrous.
It really could. Shock is already in trouble. Down to 881. Fire coming in left, right, and center. DGRD being one of those players. And those shells fly. And I think it's backup time, surely, because the rest of TCM will be getting to those positions where they can cause trouble. Eurofish was one of them, and it looks like Lucky Kuraki are backing away finally, but not the best ideal start to a game.
No, there's that T69 sports 1,350, and Shock has 663 of them left, so 40%, 45% left on that T69. Immediately TCM Gaming have the HP advantage, which is not a good thing. How well they utilize that. Magus, though, managed to get himself spot. He's going to have to retreat a little bit, but he does it perfectly. Skips back down and forces Lucky Kuraki to commit a little bit more than they would normally. Waste their time a little bit more. TCM can start rotating, look towards that cap, and just surround and put the net, put the blindfold over Lucky Kuraki. But still, they still need to make sure that they do it properly, because Shock hasn't... it's not a killing blow. It's not that much damage. They still have to make sure that they have all those important things, the spots, the information, the blind fires as well, and slow down the game a little bit, because they are 2-0 up. They don't have to rush it. They can still draw this one and win at the end of the day. So make sure that is in the back of their minds, also very important. But Lucky Kuraki are definitely phased. You can see they are a little bit, I don't know, caught on the back foot, and they need to just get themselves back into this game.
Well, they're going to have to do it fast, because the cap has already started from TCM. They want this one over and done with pretty quickly. Bishu there in that T69 will be challenging down Durs immediately if he goes for the peak. And I can't believe Magus is even still alive. That's the more impressive thing. The fire from the back still coming through. That's Uralfish obviously doing the job. And everyone is pretty much spotted, so they know what's happening here. But Yukai and DJ Redeep also will be the guys keeping The eyes across the map here if anyone tries to cross through the middle. So it's a bit of a 3-2 split again from TCM, but it's doing the damage, it's doing the work, and I'm a little worried for Lucky Kuraki here.
Yeah, Kelly does save their day a little bit there. Takes down still Mojo, so pressure off for at least a few seconds, maybe a few minutes for Lucky Kuraki. They can maybe just gather themselves a little bit. Magus also gets spotted. This could be trouble for him if Matt PL can hit him. Actually, so far is failing to do so. Finally does connect
there
it.
we go.
Both tier ones now down for TCM Gaming. Stuff is starting to look a little bit up for Lucky Kuraki. Let's see if they can make anything happen, but TCM don't have to worry too much. All 5 of their combat tanks are pretty much on the full HP, although Yukai does receive a couple of shells.
Yeah, Yukai a little bit damaged up, but nothing too bad. Durs there, still having to be careful, holding this 6 line pretty much right towards the top of the map, and the others on their own. So actually Durs is pretty much out on a limb here as well. You can see CNNK is keeping tabs on him. And, well, nowhere to run and hide. He's holding the pushover, obviously, but Lucky Kuraki could capitalize on this if they wanted to. There's a lot of room to breathe here now that those 2 tier 1s have fallen. They have 6 minutes to do it in. And I kind of want to see a little bit more from them. At the moment, they struggle to find Magus, let alone the rest of these guys. So DJ Redeep, everyone else, the vast majority of the firepower is still around here. Thoris, as you can see, right at the back lines there, making his way across. But what's the plan coming out from TCM here?
This is brave stuff from them, that's for sure. They've left Dur completely on his own, unsupported. If Bishu and one more tank pushed in, preferably an AMX 3090, would be absolute game over for Durs. Maybe not a killing blow, but certainly would be hard for TCM to get back into this game. So whatever they do now has to be decisive. It has to be on point. Thoris spots out Kelly, and basically their idea is to creep up in towards the middle. They have to get the middle ground, get themselves into that village, push from the south with one AMX 3090, main force go through the center area, and basically just come from both sides, make it impossible for Lucky Kuraki to get the focus fire down.
Well, let's see if they can do it. 5 minutes. It's all down to does TCM want to go for this right now. Bishu is challenging, actually. He's going to peer up and over. Durs is in trouble. We said it before. And actually, oh, even the tier 1 joins in. Durs could go down here. He's got to be desperately careful. Backs away a little. He's finally got some support, but from afar. This could be go time for Lucky Kuraki. Surely they should commit off the back of this.
Yeah, they should try and take down Durs. See, I told you that would be the perfect move for them. Durs, though, can be a little bit rest assured that Bishu has another 10 to 15 seconds to reload. That could be the window of opportunity for TCM, and they are going for it.
Well, Bishu made his move, he made it count. Durs is down, but now TCM looking to avenge their fallen teammate, and they're doing some real damage. Eurofish comes in, Shock's fairly low, Mac as well, but Thoris gets taken down, goes for the flat-out exchange. Yukai and DJ Redeep now joining in, Shock is there, but look at Kelly playing defense, just pushing Eurofish all the way back here. Kelly might fall, but the rest of Lucky Kuraki have the time to rethink things and try and make this one count, because they're not completely cleanly just yet. 3v3 pretty much, or a 3v2, but the HP, I'd say with Lucky Kuraki with the better tanks.
Yeah, and it depends what Matt PL's reload is like. Is he off it? Well, it doesn't matter because Bishu isn't.
And there we go, damage is being caused. Eurofish making a run for it. DJ Redeep trying to stay alive, trying to avoid these shells for a couple more seconds. Refocusing up, Matt staring him down, and he knows that Matt can do the damage. Bishu is there as well, and there is actually another tank on the backside. That is CNNK to make sure they can't get too far. A little bit of an exchange, but I don't think it's going to be enough here. Matt will take him down, but Eurofish, if he stays alive, he can draw this one out.
It's 3 minutes and 23 seconds left. Now Eurofish's main, well, I think the whole play from TCM was to draw this one out. You could see Eurofish wasn't supporting his friend DJ Red Deep there at all, so just scampering away, getting himself out of the equation, but it's a long, long time to stay alive.
Let's see if he can do it. CNNK will be the first on the scene. He will fall. But the information was given. They now know where Eurofish is. Can any of them land this shot? It will be huge if they can. But Eurofish just about staying alive, scampering away. Those 3090s, they are pretty damn fast, and he knows it as well. And 249. Bishu moving in, Matt as well. Kuraki, he's a tier 1, so can't do the damage they need. But Matt and Bishu splitting themselves up as a separate pincer move coming in here. Can Eurofish find a way out? Let's find out, as he is now trying to dodge between the two. He's got one to the left, one to the right. Bishu surely can be the first to spawn him out here. Seconds apart. Here we go. Eurofish does spot him. First shell will land, but I think he's been tracked there. This could be disastrous. He should be able to get him down. Surely he does take him down, but can he get away before Matt is on the scene? Cap begins. 2 minutes and 10 seconds left on 99 HP. He's not trying to run away. Matt actually could take him down here. This is a matter of centimeters apart now. Eurofish, he's literally walking into him. This could be real trouble. Eurofish chose the wrong option. Matt punishes him, and Lucky Kuraki pick up the third map, and it wasn't pretty though.
It wasn't. It was a scrappy old game, that one. But good play by Lucky Kuraki. I have to give my props out to Bishu. 2.3k from that T69, and that was really the game for them. Basically, the problem there for TCM was you know, maybe a lesser team than Lucky Kuraki wouldn't have pushed onto him as quite decisively as they did, but they did. They saw that weakness, and he was like, he did 50% to the T69, and he was down to like 50 HP himself. So it was a 4 versus 5 situation. Bishu could rotate off that. Although TCM did a good job going in, the amount of cover that Lucky Kuraki had allowed them to kind of spread the damage a little bit, stay alive a little bit too long before Bishu came in and really did the damage at the end. So great job by Lucky Kuraki. TCM lacking a little bit of execution in that situation. You know, I'm not sure why Thoris went around the back. I think he should have been there in the middle with the rest of his team and just go for that one engagement and not spread your tanks out, because you've already got an AMX 3090 in the north. Use all your resources in one place when you're in that situation.
Maybe a little bit of a mistake there from TCM coming through. So a window of opportunity now building for Lucky Kuraki. If they can pick up this map, they are tying all even. But then again, TCM still are on match point. Let's bear that in mind. It's going to come down to, can TCM extend to a point they feel comfortable to pick up the victory here, unless Lucky Kuraki turn it round again. And next map being Cliff, I'm not sure. Lucky Kuraki, I've not seen a lot of on this map. I'm trying to think back to when I saw them on here last, and can't really recall much, but maybe they have something up their sleeve here. They certainly did very well in the last game. They actually didn't play with that much of a strategy. They just kind of played it out how it came, and they had a weird beginning though, didn't they? They kind of put all tanks very aggressively through the middle, which maybe caught TCM off a little bit or just threw them off of their game plan. But still, Cliff now coming up next. Who has the edge, and what tank picks are we seeing? So
Lucky Kuraki have lost every single game on Cliff thus far. They've been picking the triple 5100s, that kind of lineup, so very heavy and generally doesn't work when the other team is as high a caliber as we have in the Wargaming League Europe. Lineup for Lucky Kuraki, double T69, triple MX 1390, double tier 1, and for TCM it's going to be the IS3 ×2, double AMX 1390, T69, and double tier 1. So a very heavy lineup coming from TCM.
I didn't like it last time either.
It's going to be a hard one for them to execute it. They might have got this tactic down though.
Well, let's find out. Cliff is next. And welcome into the fourth battle here. TCM up against Lucky Kuraki, currently sitting at 2-1. Well, let's see if Lucky Kuraki can fend off TCM again. TCM still on match point here, 2-1. Obviously, first to 3 pretty much picks it up. But Cliff is a bit of a beast of its own kind of being, and TCM will be in the north in blue, in the south in red. It's Lucky Kuraki. What is the start we're seeing from these guys?
So Lucky Kuraki just doing the standard stuff, heading towards the cliff. Kelly going first in that AMX 1390. They haven't got a very heavy lineup, so they need to go for the early game like other teams have gone against them when they've picked their heavy lineup. But can they execute? Because so far, they've been lacking a little bit of execution, lacking a little bit of decisiveness, and that's where TCM can come into their own. But the later this game goes, the better it gets for TCM.
Well, let's see if it's going to be a fast one already. Kelly receiving a big chunk of damage down to 715. And look at the lineup, the way TC are playing here. Eurofish is the only one really far forward. Everyone else all the way back here. Those IS3s, they are not fast tanks. They will eventually get in the game. But as you said, this better be a quick one if Lucky Kuraki want to pick it up and make this one really hurt. Still Mojo finally takes a bit of a beating, down to 986, but fired back towards Shock. Just reminding them that those IS-3s, they damn well can hurt.
So 8 shells came out, 6 bounced, 2 did damage. I mean, if you want stats, if you want numbers, that's the kind of power the IS-3 has against the T69. That's why you don't see the T69 on Ensk and Himmelsdorf anymore, because it is so unreliable, and TCM knows it. They know that Lucky Kuraki loves their T69s on this map, and they know that it won't be able to do all too much against it, so it's going to rely on Mac Money, Matt PL, and Kelly in those AMX 1390s. And to be honest, that's not a bad thing for Lucky Kuraki, because Matt PL has been doing so well in his AMX 1390, but TCM Gaming going to have to stay back a little bit. But again, I can't stress it enough, when those IS-3s want to push, they'll be able to push, and they won't be able to take that much damage. They will not take that much damage, and at the end of the day, that's what TCM is going to do at some point in time. They are going to push forwards. They need to get the information first, though, and that's the important thing. What Lucky Kuraki needs to do is basically just wiggle away at the TCM's HP, just do as much damage as they can, so when that push does come, they can fend it off.
Well, right now, we are seeing a little bit of a smart play from Matt. He's looking for a way through at the moment, trying to find a bit of an option here. And, well, they do quite badly need it, as at the moment, TCM not moving a muscle. Happy to sit still, happy to sit in, utilize those IS-3s like we know they can. And it looks like Lucky Kuraki might be going for a bit of a move, just up and down that hill a little bit. But I thought I might see a little bit more from them here, but maybe those IS-3s just catching him off a bit.
CNNK is rotating, well, he's reversing around the corner, trying to get some more information. Still Mojo does receive a shell there. Now Forrest in his IS-3 he's received 2 shells, down to 1017 HP left in the IS-3, and this is that whittling damage we see from Lucky Kuraki doing a good job, not receiving any of their own. Another shell hitting into Still Mojo.
Yeah, this is good play from Lucky Kuraki, and, well, Still Mojo and Thoris not looking so invincible anymore. Still Mojo down quite low. Oh, and Thoris taking another. Doesn't quite do the damage we wanted, but still Mojo down to 739. That's quite severe already, and I didn't like this tactic last time coming out with Still Mojo in that IS-3, but maybe they can do something a little more with it this time. It looks like, is that McMoney making a bit of a rotate through mid, or is he still just hanging around? I think he's just falling a little bit further back, just playing a little bit more passively. Bishu still up there. You know, I've seen a couple of shells back and forth here, and Still Mojo and Eurelfish peeking ahead. Still Mojo's taking a lot of damage. He's down. That's unbelievable play. Lucky Kuraki are really making this one hurt. And Thoris, he's not out of the woods yet either.
No, he's just taking 233 damage. Still Mojo probably got tracked there in the middle. And then Kelly got himself into the perfect position. He wasn't spotted, he was behind these bushes, so he could really take advantage of that tracked IS-3. And at the end of the day, it was a tracked IS-3, the dead IS-3 got taken down very quickly, despite Eurofish being a distraction. Lucky Kuraki knew what target they had to focus on, and those 2 IS-3s just not staying alive for long enough, and TCM having no other tactic, it seemed. I mean, the IS-3 is fair enough in that position, but what can you do after you've put them there? You need to have a second plan, you need to have an escape plan, or you just need to have a winning situation. And for TCM, the only thing I really see on the cards at this point in time is to sit it out, is to wait until that 2-minute mark and hope to the gods that you can actually survive the push from Lucky Kuraki.
Well, at the moment, TCM are falling back. They are making their way down towards the foot of the west side of this map, just down towards the bottom part of the hill. Dur's now coming over. DJ Redeep not really moving a muscle so far. Thoros was the one to make the bigger move. He was that IS-3 who was sitting next to Still Mojo, who took an absolute pounding. So now Eurelfish will be moving up, and I feel this is just TCM trying to stay alive here.
It might just be a defensive tactic, or maybe, you know, offense is the best defense. That might be their logic, and to be honest, it's good logic indeed. It keeps the other enemy guessing, and despite being 1 tier 8 tank down, with Thoris still alive, they still have decent amount of HP. They just need to discover and find the one weakness in Lucky Kuraki, which at the moment is their flanks. Also keeping Lucky Kuraki guessing. If you stay in one position too long, the other team can formulate, they can come up with a good plan against it. If you keep on moving, you have to keep on making new plans. Without, you know, if you don't, then you're just going to get caught out, you're going to get taken down, and it's not what anything that any team wants, so specifically not Lucky Kuraki, or definitely a very thinking team, a very brainy team.
Yeah, but I'm not sold by TCM. Devil looks like he's trying to get the hell into a safe position to draw it out if he has to. And I'm surprised Lucky Kuraki didn't go for a bit of a killing maneuver here more than anything. And as you said, though, it's quite hard to formulate the perfect plan when you know your opponents are making that move, when you can't really predict every single factor towards it. Right now, Durs, DJ Deep, and everyone else just tucking themselves in. Devil getting as far away from the action as physically possible. Just going to be playing safe, I can imagine. And I don't really blame him if they do want to take this even further to that final map. Right now, do you think it's time Lucky Kuraki make that aggressive play?
It does look like Matpel is, he's got himself off there. He does do it at the perfect time. He does actually spot them, but he's also got caught out, taken down. Beautiful play by TCM.
Perfectly done. 3 tanks, one after the other, just landing those shells. Durs, DJ Deep, and Thoris quick on that trigger. So now, well, the game plan's up at least for TCM. Their position is known, but can they maintain against the 4 other damage-dealing combat tanks now moving into position? Durs will meet Bishu first of all. DJ Deep and Thoris have to back him up, but Shock on the flank as well. This could be painful. DJ Deep takes 1, but now he takes 2. This could be game over, surely. Bishu and Money withstanding the damage. Durs takes a faceful. DJ Deep's the first to fall. Durs will follow, and the D&D combo stand no more.
Positions, they could get that first kill, but once they had the first kill, Lucky Kuraki had something better. They had the better positioning and they had the information of where TCM were. It gives them a huge advantage and they're going to really crush TCM with it.
Yeah, bringing this one home. Kelly facing up against Thoris here. One more shell will do that job for him. And let's see if he can go down. There we go, finally falls, but the last man standing, Devil, can he stay alive and hide this out for 2 whole minutes? He has players closing in. CNNK will be one of them. Literally centimeters apart. He's been spotted. I think we know who's going to pick this one up. CNNK will be moving in, gets the damage done, and there we have it. Lucky Kuraki picking the map up and tying it back all even at 2-2. This is a worrying sight for any TCM fans.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, isn't it? Once you lose 1, you're going to lose 2. Kelly doing 2.6k damage.
Brilliant
again,
play.
You know, Bishu in the previous round, 1 player on the side of a team just carrying it through. Obviously, Kelly was on that cliff. He was on the hill.
Oh, with the lighthouse, yeah.
Exactly,
yeah.
and he had the higher ground and he could just really, really use it well. At the end of the day, TCM gambled with those 2 IS3s, a gamble not paying off at all. You know, although Thoris did 1.6k damage, once those IS3s were in that position, it basically didn't give them any options. It was either stay there, hope that Lucky Kuraki peak up too much and they can do the damage with the BL9s, or basically nothing, or do what they did, and which was one of the best things they could have done. But the problem was, once it was discovered, you know, it was pretty much game over. They could just get surrounded and focused down, which is what Lucky Kuraki did. So 2-2, I did not expect that.
No, definitely not. Not after TCM in their first couple of maps looking formidable, I think is the best word for it. They looked absolutely on point. But then the last 2, I don't know what's happened. It's just kind of fallen apart. But the deciding map, whether it be a draw or a win for either team, because we are tied at 2-2, it's going to be Ruinberg. Now, a great map historically for TCM, especially with players like Steel Mojo now in there as well. But Lucky Kuraki, I don't want to write them out now. I underestimated them after the first 2 maps. I was like, oh, this is pretty much game over. But they've turned this one around. Could they do it again?
They certainly could. They seem to be a team that doesn't really care about losing. They pick themselves up and they go for the wins, which is great. Although, you know, I must say they haven't really made any plays per se. They've always been the reacting team. On Prokhorovka, they reacted TCM's play in the cap. On Cliff, they kind of reacted to the IS3s, but then again,
they're the maps they won.
Exactly. I mean, it's more of TCM just not executing right when they push than anything from Lucky Kuraki, although Lucky Kuraki have been doing everything right as much as they could possibly do. So, you know, you can't really take anything away from them in that respect.
It's an awkward situation. I'm glad you pointed that out, because every reactive map they've been in, they've won, where they didn't make that first move, where they made some interesting choices, let's say, especially, you know, I look at Ensk, but then again, that was TCM also doing very well at the beginning. You know, Lucky Kuraki have tried a couple of options, and a lot of them haven't really paid off, but they still tried them. But they've not been like these all-in, fully committed pushes. They've been kind of like the dithering in between. So it looks like maybe they slowed down after those first 2 losses and gone, okay, let's play reactive smart tanks. They've done quite well, but then again, what if TCM don't go for the kind of all-in strategy here and they play for like the smarter late game? They could be, you know, Lucky Kuraki could be in trouble, but predictions on the final map, who's going to pick it up?
I mean, this one's going to be insane. TCM won their previous engagement on Ruinberg. Lucky Kuraki, I think they did as well, but in terms of lineups, double AMX 5100, AMX 3090, double IS3 for TCM and for Lucky Kuraki, something pretty much the same. Well, yeah, it's exactly the same. Double IS3, double AMX 5100, AMX 3090, double T1.
Well, we have the mirror lineups, we have the final map, and we have a great game about to go down. I really can't wait for this one. So, are you really not going to make a prediction?
I don't know. I mean, it's mirrored lineup, so I think TCM might take it, but Lucky Kuraki just looks such a dangerous team right now.
I'm going to stick with my original prediction of Lucky Kuraki. I feel bad going against it, but TCM have looked pretty damn good. So guys, let's get ready for that incredible final map. It's going to be Ruinberg. So, welcome into the 5th and final map between Lucky Kuraki and TCM. TCM will be in the south in blue. In the north in red is Lucky Kuraki. And at the very start, this looked like a landslide victory for TCM. But Lucky Kuraki bringing it back when it matters. But who will walk away with a victory here after? I'm not too sure myself. I'm going to stick with Lucky Kuraki, but what are they doing from the very start here?
Lucky Kuraki going, well, it looks like going for a city push. Pretty much all their tanks, including their tier 1s, heading up that way. TCM going for that half moon crescent circle, sending obviously Magus in the tier 1 towards the city to try and get those spots out. This could be a good position for TCM as they will have the higher point in the map, the higher ground. They'll be able to shoot down, get into better positions, and even surround Lucky Kuraki, as they haven't really left much in terms of tier 1s over towards their cap. Only one sitting up in A4. Well, still the surround will be possible, and he's in a little bit of a vulnerable position.
And I want to point out this really nice play from Eurofish. Actually going quite aggressive. He pushed further on from here. Spots out no one. Immediately turret straight down this way. They've got Magus in a good position also, waiting to see if anyone wants to push through. But it's just, it looks like the information has been collected and gathered by TCM. And now they're going to set up in the best possible position for it. Where are they going to go? What are their options for TCM here? Because they now pretty much understand where Lucky Kuraki are.
They don't have, yeah, they 100% know. That is the most important thing to keep in mind. TCM know that Lucky Kuraki are in the city, and in the positions they are, Lucky Kuraki cannot push onto them. What Lucky Kuraki, they can't go even past this point. If they go past this point, there's going to be Eurofish, Mojo, and Thoris all getting their shots on into the side of the IS3s, which is going to be disastrous. So what Lucky Kuraki is basically restricted to is heading down to F1. They can head down to F1 and go across. They can rotate back around and play defensive around their cap. They can't go up here because they'll get spotted by these tanks here. Or they have to go, I guess they can go right up the A line and really hug the top of it, but it's still a dangerous move for them. They can still get spotted out. So for at least Lucky Kuraki, it's really going to be a defensive game for now. TCM Gaming just have to make sure that they don't be too aggressive at the start. Get the information. They still got both tier 1s alive, and maybe even wait for the AMX 3090 of Eurofish to be in the right position to get that information and then go for a split push.
Well, let's find out, because they are already kind of splitting themselves up here a little bit, TCM. As you said, Eurofish is a little further forward, but he does have still Mojo and Thoris not too far back. Thoris kind of keeping eyes on down that 5 and 6 line. Still Mojo watching the cross as well. DJ Deep and Durs joined by Magus in a little bit of a different spot, but it's just such smart play from TCM. They're literally covering every single possible base at the moment that possibly could hold Lucky Kuraki, and already Eurofish does catch a glimpse. I believe that was of McMoney there, just showing his face in that 1390. So already enough information to keep guys trained towards the right opinions, towards the right sites. And I want to flick over towards Devil. He's already doing the dirty job of going all the way around the outside, making sure he knows there's no surprises waiting, and he can already apply possibly a bit of pressure.
It's going to be interesting if he can get into the cap, and if he does, or maybe just get behind one of the Primroses and spot out. And if he even gets spotted, he'll know that Lucky Kuraki have resources towards the cap, and that will allow TCM Gaming to think, okay, we can go 3 against 5 here, we can go 3 against 4 here. There has to be a tank that's got higher view range to spot the T1, or even get spotted by the Tier 1s. Who?
McMoney, was he just passing down?
Yeah. He can actually drive all the way along here. If he goes past this point, he's probably going to get spotted, but at the moment, yeah, CNNK and McMoney are kind of heading towards TCM's base a little bit. They will find Magus there in the Tier 1, so you don't have to be worried too much for TCM. But still, Lucky Kuraki don't look like they want to be 100% turtle down. They want to be too passive. They want to go for that win if they can. And so far, this is the best thing about Lucky Kuraki. They've always been in the right position to deal with TCM.
Well, let's see if they can keep doing that. We are seeing a bit of a maneuver coming out from TCM, moving their tanks up by the village. Obviously, Durs and Didgeridoo, but Thoris is also doing the same, joined by Still Mojo, possibly down that Crescent Moonline, and they could be moving into what could be a bit of a capture here if they fancy it, but they know there's going to be tanks around here, surely.
They definitely know there's going to be tanks around there. There's really no other place the tanks could be. Yeah. They have to understand that TCM, that Lucky Kuraki, are going to be on the defensive because they can't be on the offensive. It's not a big map. You can really just say, okay, if they're not there, they're there. If they're not there, they're there. To a pretty high degree of accuracy, and Eurofish spotting McMoney as well in the middle. If your AMX 3090 is not far into the other team's base, certainly not your IS-3s or your 5100s would be. So it's pretty predictable stuff, but TCM get themselves into a good position to get the cap underway.
Oh, this is lovely positioning from Flores there, that IS-3. Look at that.
He hasn't even got camo on, man. That's a 5% camo bonus you're missing, Thoris, man. Come on.
I'm assuming that might be a spec climber. Surely he's not being that confident, but still, Thoris and Still Mojo in a fantastic spot. It's forcing the hands of Lucky Kuraki, and that cap's not stopping, and it does have backup, but where's the counterplay from Lucky Kuraki coming from?
The counterplay is coming from Mr. Money himself, heading up towards Magus's position in the Tier 1, joined by Kuraki, CNNK, and Kelly, so the cap will be sliding straight into Lucky Kuraki's favor if they do get those tanks in there.
Well, let's see. This is going to be a base race to finish us off with. Eurofish is actually on his way back. He knows what might be happening. 24 seconds still left on that cap, so keep your eyes on it. But this is going to be an interesting one. Still Mojo has been shot, but he's in a great spot to cover off and allow Thoris to do the work. But they're backing away. They can't commit to this. Shot is going low, as has Still Mojo, though. And the cap for Lucky Kuraki is definitely on. And there's no one really there yet to commit to this. Eurofish tries to get back, but Money's keeping him busy. This could go either way.
This could go both ways. It depends on Eurofish. It's all on him.
Eurofish must get back and do the job. McMoney doing everything he can to stop him. Finally, a bit of help comes through, but 2 seconds left. 1 second left. Eurofish must land this shot right here, right now. It's too late. Lucky Kuraki pick the game up. And at what a pivotal moment when the seconds were literally down to the wire. Unbelievable play.
Insane. Lucky Kuraki, perfect reaction once again, and TCM at the beginning of this matchup looked dominant, but Lucky Kuraki said, guys, we can't outsmart TCM, but what we can do is we can outreact to TCM. You know, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I think TCM a little bit short-sighted. They should have had Eurofish in a good position to stop the cap before that ever happened, but they didn't. So Lucky Kuraki could get themselves a win, and that was basically it. You know, we had Bishu. I'm not sure. I'm still unsure exactly what Durs was doing in that place, because where he was sitting up behind the buildings, he did not spot Bishu, and that was the problem. Bishu in that 5100 could just go around the corner, reset the cap onto Still Mojo and Thoris, and at the end of the day, that's all he had to do, because 3 tanks from Lucky Kuraki were sitting up and getting the pressure on getting the cap of their own. So that was basically it. Bishu was in the right position to stop the cap, and Eurofish and TCM in general weren't.
Fantastic game though, Lucky Kuraki. I'm a little bit impressed, I've got to say it. I didn't think at the start of this game they'd be able to do that. I thought they were looking a little bit weaker. Their initial plans that surprised me and impressed me against School Bus weren't there today, it seems, but their reactive play was on point.
It's pretty funny actually, because Odin Mortis beforehand was a team which always went 2-0 up and then went 3-0 down. And I would have expected with the likes of Steel Mojo and Eurofish and for
maybe to kind of even out
just
a bit.
to even that one out a little bit. And I think, TCM, their gameplay was better than Lucky Karaki's in many respects. Like Lucky Karaki, they were very reactive and on point in that respect. But then TCM, like they had it felt, skill cap, for instance,
Yep.
So you have up to a point you can be very good, but then when you go past that point, it's like, it diminishing returns. Another player can overtake you, and that's what it felt like with TCM. Like they just needed the execution, and then they can just go so much further than what Lucky Karaki can do.
Yes.
Lucky Karaki, what they showed on steps was kind of they tried something, and also on Ents they tried something, but they just couldn't execute it. And against a team who's better than TCM is, for instance, Virtus Pro, in some respects School Bus, although they did beat School Bus, but certainly Virtus Pro, who's a top team in the world, they're definitely going to struggle.
But that's not a bad position to be in for a team just coming into
Certainly
the league.
Certainly not.
I've got to give credit where it's due. Lucky Kuraki, they may not be the team showing the most initiative in the world and the most well-executed strategies. They won in the end.
Mm-hmm.
TCM, they were on match point for 3 maps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lucky Karaki, just a superb team. Now,
turning it on when it matters.
Just taking both School Bus and TCM Gaming, certainly going to be heading up that leader table. I must admit, they never expected them to be so good.
No.
And maybe that's just down to the fact that they went into these matchups just thinking, we're just going to try our best, and whatever happens. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic stuff from those guys.
Let's bear in mind, their next opponent's EPS, who didn't look that strong earlier. They looked okay for EPS, but throughout the season, they haven't looked incredible.
Mm-hmm.
This is a worrying sign. We could have a big upset coming into the rest of the season, but obviously we still have one more game today, and it's going to be a good one as well. Kazna Crew up against Isuba. That is going to be a game to be watching. So guys, make sure you go over towards Facebook and Twitter using WGL EU, as obviously chuck it on the end of both of those, and get your predictions through for that one, because it's going to be a great game coming up. Bearing in mind, Isuba now do have their captain back. A little bit of a betting tidbit there from Ollie, who will be letting you know maybe who he's backing. Who are you going to go for in this one?
Ooh, I'm going to have to go for Kazna, but it's going to be a tricky game. I think Voodoo's just going to make a big difference.
Well, that's something to be looking forward to. So guys, we'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes as soon as the teams are ready, and hopefully you'll still be here.